Imagine you wake up one morning and you are hearing voices. Voices that tell you things, warnings, secrets, or just noise at 3 in the morning. Now imagine it is happening to you 3,000 years ago. No diagnosis, no medication, no therapist to nod slowly and ask how you feel. What you have instead is a priest, a goat, and a very serious ritual. And here is the unsettling part. Depending on when and where you were born, that could save you. Or it could be the beginning of something horrifying. Because how a people treats its most broken minds tells you everything about it, including what it would have done to you. Start with the deep past because we have the evidence and it is immediately insane. We find skulls thousands of years old with holes carved into them. Not wounds from battle, not animal bites, clean, deliberate holes. And some show the bone grew back, which means the person lived. They walked around with a hole cut into their head on purpose. The theory, they were letting the evil spirit out. Bad headaches, a demon. Hearing voices, a demon. Acting strange, obviously a demon, so drill the hole. And this idea survived for thousands of years, across peoples who never met. Ancient Peru, ancient Greece, Africa, medieval Europe, all alone, all the same answer. Which says something profound or something deeply worrying about how we solve problems. Either a strange shared instinct or a strange shared mistake. Now go to the land between two rivers. There a troubled mind was not a sickness, it was a debt. It meant a god was angry with you. You had broken some sacred law, and now a god's hand pressed down on you. And if you have ever had a panic attack, that image lands a little too close. So your suffering was read as proof you had wronged the heavens. Priests would study your symptoms, your dreams, your every strange behavior. They cross-checked it all against huge clay tablets of divine offenses. And then they prescribed a cleansing ritual. But do not laugh too hard, these priests were genuinely trying to help. Their tablets described what we would now call schizophrenia, epilepsy, depression. They watched carefully, they just had the cause completely wrong. Across the desert to Egypt, and the story shifts in a surprising way. There, a troubled mind was treated more as a medical thing than a curse. They prescribed herbs, rest, music, and time in calming places. The suffering were brought to temple gardens, not to be judged, but to heal. They slept in sacred grounds and had their healing dreams interpreted. You were being prescribed gentle dreams in a peaceful garden, which honestly is kinder than a lot of places that came much later. Music, gardens, and rest offered as real medicine for a hurting mind. Now cross the sea to Greece, where two ideas went to war for centuries. The first, madness, was sent by the gods, and some saw that as almost a gift. A mind touched by the gods might be speaking their truths. One great thinker even ranked divine madness above ordinary reason. The mad, he said, could reach truths the merely sane never could. The second idea came from a famous physician. He flatly rejected the gods. Madness, he said, was a disease of the brain. He blamed an imbalance of fluids inside the body. Too much dark bile, he thought, was the cause of deep sadness. He was wrong about the fluid, but right that the mind is rooted in the body. And that idea was so far ahead that the world took 2,000 years to catch up. Rome took the Greek ideas, kept some, ruined others, and built better roads. Their doctors offered warm baths, exercise, and conversation. Yes, conversation, talking through your pain with a physician. It was not quite therapy, but you can see its shape forming in the distance. But Rome also gives us one of the darker chapters. A rich family with an inconvenient relative could have them declared mad. Once declared, that person lost every right they had. Locked away, their property handed to a guardian. And that judgment was made by the family, not a doctor. So if your uncle was truly ill, he might be confined. But if your uncle was merely rich and you were greedy, that word got flexible. Now into the medieval world, where the story is not what you were told. Yes, much of Europe blamed demons and answered with exorcism. But another thread runs quietly alongside it, and it is extraordinary. Far to the east and south, a great civilization built something new. The first true hospitals for the mind, Baghdad, Cairo. Not prisons, places with running water, gardens, music, and real physicians. The suffering were bathed, fed, and treated with gentleness, not chains. One physician described talking therapy in the year 1025. While parts of Europe performed exorcisms, others were already healing with kindness. And in one small town, ordinary families did the most radical thing of all. From the 1200s, the town of Gilles simply took the troubled in. Not to cure them, to include them, to let them belong. They lived in homes, worked in fields, shared meals as family. That system ran for 700 years. It still runs today. A tiny town solved something the experts are still catching up to. But then in Europe, things got darker before they got better. The age of the great institution arrived. The mad, the poor, the criminal, all locked together under one roof. The most infamous gave its name to a word for pure chaos. Inside, the suffering were chained. Left in filth and darkness, their pain simply ignored. And here is the part that should turn your stomach. The public paid admission to come and watch them. You could bring the family on a Sunday and point at the mad for fun. Thousands came in the worst years to treat human agony as a day out. The more visibly a person suffered, the bigger the crowd they drew. To watch someone break and feel nothing is its own kind of sickness. Then slowly the tide began to turn. A reformer walked into an asylum and ordered the chains struck off. He believed a gentle word could do what a chain never would. He argued the mad could recover, and that cruelty only made them worse. Another built a quiet retreat run on a radical idea: kindness. No chains, no dungeons, fresh air, useful work and company. And treating hurting people gently produced far better healing. The radical discovery was simply that dignity heals. In its day, this counted as a shocking discovery. We were making progress, real, uneven, hard-won progress. And then the next century built enormous asylums and packed them past breaking. Good intentions overwhelmed became their own quiet catastrophe. The knowledge raced ahead, the kindness could never quite keep pace. Progress, it turns out, was never a straight line. So what does this whole long story leave you with? Here is the thing that stays with me. The kindest care almost never came from the most advanced places. It came from communities that simply had to include their own. From reformers who applied plain empathy against fierce resistance. From a town that decided a broken mind is still a person who belongs. The grand theories were sometimes brilliant and sometimes monstrous. Intelligence, it turns out, does not come bundled with humanity. A people can master the stars and still fail the person beside them. Every era believed it was the one that finally understood. And every era got part of it right and part of it terribly wrong. We do know more now, in real and important ways. But the gap was never really about knowledge. It was about what we believed the suffering deserved. If this made you think of someone whose mind has been through the storm, stay a moment. Subscribe, and the next quiet question will find you when it is ready. And send it to someone who has sat with a person on their hardest day. And that answer is not found in any textbook. It is found in whether you can look at someone's suffering in a way that frightens you and still not turn away. And still say, here is a human being and a place among us that is theirs. Someone worth the trouble, the patience, and the quiet care. That was the hard part in every age we have walked through tonight. And quietly in your own time, it remains the hard part still.